All right, y'all, I'm going to need your help with this one, all right? Sing with me. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. With angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Christ by highest, Christ by highest and adored, Christ the everlasting Lord. Late in time, behold him come, offspring of a virgin's womb. Veiled in flesh, the God had seen, hail the incarnate deity. Pleased with man as meant to dwell, Jesus our Emmanuel. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Hail the heaven-born, hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace, hail the Son of Righteousness. Light and life to all he brings, risen with healing in his wings. Mild he lays his glory by, born that men no more may die, born to raise the sons of earth, born to give them second birth. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King.
Yeah. Great job, Pastor David. Somebody say, what's up, Dan? What's up, y'all? Merry Christmas to you, if I haven't had a chance to say that to you, and Happy New Year. We are landing the plane on this whole series. Has anybody enjoyed this? Yeah. Been some really powerful messages, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that these songs, these deep songs from the past, that we go back and look at and we talk about why is it that we sing these things and all of that. So anybody a little bit lethargic today? You're full of ham and cheese, Christmas cookies and things like that. How many of you didn't realize it was Sunday until this morning? Like you just lost, right, you lose track. I don't know, there's like a time vortex thing that happens like right after Christmas, and you just kind of lose track of time, and then suddenly you realize, oh, it's Sunday. Maybe I should go to church today, and I'm glad you're here. So in case we haven't met, again, my name is Dan, and I am privileged to be part of a church that is growing, privileged to be part of what God is doing here at Five Lakes. I'm actually the kids pastor, so I get to see next generation stuff happen all the time, and I mean all the time in Five Lakes Kids. And so being in here in what I call boring church is just a little bit different for me, because usually I'm back there with the kids. But one thing that excited me about when I found out that I was going to be preaching this weekend is this particular song, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, one of my all-time favorite Christmas songs. Now, when I started looking at this song and doing some research, I figured out that this song was written by this rock star right here. I think we have a picture. Yeah, you can't see his tattoos, but this is Charles Wesley, and he was a prolific hymn writer. In fact, he wrote over 6,500 hymns. Can you imagine that? He's the brother of John Wesley. A lot of his hymns were actually written to accompany his brother's messages. Now, in case you're newer to church or church history and things like that, John Wesley was credited with being one of the founders of the Methodist movement, which was kind of a big deal at the time. In fact, his songs, Charles Wesley's songs, were so popular and were being commented on and copied over and over again that when he published one of his books of his hymns, he wrote this in the front. He wrote, "Many gentlemen have done my brother and me, though without naming us, the honor to reprint many of our hymns." A little passive-aggressive there. Seems a little salty over it, right? But then he says this, "Now they are perfectly welcome so to do, provided that they print them as they are. But I desire that they do not mend them." In other words, don't change my songs, y'all. Don't change them. Which is exactly what happened, of course. So when I started researching the song, I discovered really quickly that the original lyrics and the original tune had been changed over the years. And I really hate to do this to you, but I'm going to anyway. I really hate to do this to you, but this song was originally titled Hymn for Christmas Day, not Hark the Herald Angels Sing. But wait, it gets worse. Because the original first line didn't talk about angels or singing. Yeah, right? Take a second. I know, it hurts, but it's going to get better. Here we go. Here's the original first line of Hymn for Christmas Day. "Hark how all the welkin rings, glory to the King of Kings." I know, my childhood is a lie. Your childhood is a lie. Y'all, they sang this song at the end of Charlie Brown Christmas, which to me, as a kid who was not raised in church, that song was actually the basis for most of my biblical understanding of what Christmas was all about. Like Linus getting up there and reciting Luke chapter 2, I didn't know that stuff. And so when I find out that they've changed the lyrics to this song, like, wait a minute, there's no angels, there's no singing. What on earth is a welkin? Or like, how do you even ring a welkin? How do you do that? But here's the deal, though. Fear not, it's not as bad as it seems. When I compared the rest of the original hymn with the one that we commonly sing, really the only thing that was different was a little bit of the wording. The theology didn't change. And by the way, this is a song packed with amazing theology. The theology didn't change. It was just some words changed that were kind of out of style. For example, welcome, for example. When's the last time you used the word welcome? You can say never. It's okay. You can respond. Yeah, that's great. Never. I didn't even know what that was. But turns out that the word welcome really just means celestial regions or heavenly realms. If we were talking about this today, I would just say the heavens, right? In fact, here's my attempt to translate the opening line of Hymn for Christmas Day into today's language. Listen to how all of heaven is celebrating the birth of the King of the universe. That right there is what this song is about. At the heart of this song is the idea of celebration. And the more I thought about that, the more I thought, oh, that's what he's trying to do here. Charles Wesley is trying to capture what the reaction of heaven might have been on the day when King Jesus finally arrived to rescue us from our hopeless and helpless situation. Can you imagine? Like all of heaven is waiting for this day because of the separation between God and man, between sin and Savior. And then it finally happens. And what's the first thing that happens when it happens? A party. A celebration. And that's where we're going today. That's what we're going to talk about today is celebration. Now, let me just ask you, when I say that word, what does that make you think of? When you think celebrate, what do you think? Let me put it this way. When something momentous happens in your life, something amazing happens in your life. It could be job related, family related. You got another grandkid. You got, whatever it is. And you think to yourself, we need to celebrate. What does that mean to you? You ever thought about that? Now, I get it. I'm a preacher, right? Like professional Christian. So you're probably thinking to yourself right about now, oh boy, this is going to be a message about how partying is bad. Well, actually, what I'm planning to do is just the opposite of that. My plan is to get you to party more often. You're welcome. Get you to party more often, more intentionally and more biblically. Because I want you to walk away today knowing that you got to fight for your right to party. Now we know who the heathens in the room are. Beastie Boys. Not a great source of biblical theology, by the way. So here's why we're talking about. Just think about this, and maybe this is new for you. You've never thought about this before. In a couple of days, it's going to be New Year's Eve. How are you going to celebrate? Now, in my PJ days, that's pre-Jesus. In my PJ days, because I wasn't raised in church, I just did what everybody did, and that meant partying hard and then taking the next day to recover and try to find my car. Kind of pathetic, actually, if you think about it. But then, once I gave my life to Christ, and God started taking out the trash, as Chris talked about a few minutes ago, and I started thinking, maybe there's something different out there. Well, then I had kids. It became about family. We all just stayed home. We hung out in our PJs, ate lots of things that were bad for us, waited for the ball to drop on TV. How many of y'all going to be doing that, right? And then, hopefully, go to bed at 12:02. Right? Because y'all, it's bedtime. Get in the bed, right? But then, now in my older years, it's more about, did I remember to put my earplugs in when I went to bed at 9:30? Because some of y'all are crazy and you're trying to blow up the world at 1 a.m. I don't know what's happening, but there's fireworks everywhere. So my point in telling you all that is this. As you walk with God, He will change your understanding of things. And maybe one of the things that we need to evaluate and think about is the art of celebration. In fact, that's what I titled the sermon for today, the art of celebration. Because here's the deal. Here's why this is important. Because if your celebrations don't match your proclamations, you're missing something. You really are. There's something way better out there. Here's what I mean by that. If your celebrations don't match what you say you believe on Sunday, then you're missing out on something really amazing. So what does that mean? What does it mean to celebrate? What does the Bible have to say about this? Because nobody needs to know what Dan has to say about this. What we need is what God has to say about this. And so let me just start off by giving you a definition of celebration. Here it is. Celebration is the act of honoring, rejoicing, and giving thanks for something of great value and significance. Now, there's a lot of wiggle room on how you do that. But doing that is actually a biblical thing to do. So it's an act, right? It's something that we do. It honors, it rejoices in, or brings joy to us. And it's because we're giving thanks for something that's really important to us. The angels sang. The welkin rang to honor God and rejoice in gratitude because the Son of Man had come to rescue us. So then for us, we need to be thinking about, well, what does that mean then? What does it mean to celebrate? What, who, and how are we going to do that? And I've got a few things for you here. Before we jump into the big idea for today, don't worry, I'll get there. But here's the deal. There's a couple of things you need to know beforehand. One is this. The art of celebration was God's idea. This is God's idea. And I know some of you are just like, the curmudgeons of Christendom. You're not about the party. You're not about celebration or whatever. Well, I got bad news for you today because I'm going to prove to you that the Bible tells you you should be. So here, all of these celebrations are God initiated. The Old Testament is packed with these things. If you look at creation, God creates, and what's the next thing He does? He celebrates. He says, it is good. When God delivered the Israelites from slavery, Miriam, the prophet, led a celebration of singing and dancing. After Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem, the Israelites held a dedication, in other words, a giant party, and that celebration went on for 7 days, y'all. Can you imagine? A 7-day party with music and feasting. See, by all accounts, when you go through all these different celebrations, you'll find some common themes, and here are the common things: music, food, giving, actually, friends, and family, community. For example, after rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem, listen to what Nehemiah said. He said, "Go and celebrate with a feast of rich foods and sweet drinks, and share gifts of food with people who have nothing prepared. This is a sacred day before the Lord. Don't be dejected and sad." And then, this is crazy, at the end of this he says, "For the joy of the Lord is your strength." There is a connection between celebration and joy and the strength that will get you through your hardest days. This is important. This is God's idea. He built this into his economy for a reason. So that's the first one. The second thing you need to know is that the art of celebration has been tainted by sin. Like everything that mankind touches, we take a good thing and we break it. It's just like a toddler on Christmas morning. Totally what we do. Oh, look, I got this new thing. And it's broken. That lasted like 4 minutes, right? That's what humanity does. This has been true ever since the garden, over and over and over and over in Scripture. If you go through and you look at all the celebrations, what you'll discover is that God sets them up to remind people of his goodness, and mankind messes them up, like over and over again. In fact, in Isaiah 1, listen to what God says about the celebrations that they were having at that time. He says this: "I hate your new moon celebrations and your annual festivals. They are a burden to me. I cannot stand them. When you lift up your hands in prayer, I will not look. Though you offer many prayers, I will not listen. For your hands are covered with the blood of innocent victims. Wash yourselves and be clean. Get your sins out of my sight. Give up your evil ways." In other words, it's about the why. Why are we celebrating? How are we celebrating? God is saying, look, you've turned this into something it was never meant to be. And therefore, the celebration loses its power. See, left to our own, we humans will celebrate in the most selfish and worldly ways. You don't have to look around very long to see that that's true, right? We'll make a cheap counterfeit version of whatever God set up for us. We do it all the time with nearly everything. See, back in my PJ days, when I would say to someone, "I'm going to go party," what I meant was really this: I'm going to go numb my pain, probably make a complete fool of myself, do some things I will barely remember and probably deeply regret. That's what I really meant. But that's not the way God built it to be. In Galatians, Paul talks about this idea that we break things and we taint things and that everything we touch gets broken a little bit. In Galatians 5, he says, when you follow the desires of your sinful nature, when you party the way you want to party, when you celebrate the way you want to party, the results are very clear. And then he gives a list. Now tell me if this doesn't sound like the result of a lot of worldly parties that you have been to: sexual immorality, impurity, lustful desires and pleasures, idolatry, sorcery, hostility, quarreling, jealousy, outbursts of anger, selfish ambition, dissension, and division. How many times did the cops get called to these parties, right? But what I'm here to tell you today is that is not the way that it's meant to be. There is something better. True celebrations have the potential to draw you closer to God, not push you further from him. True celebrations have the potential to just exude joy and to draw others closer to you as well. When we become followers of Christ, here's the deal. We say, I'm surrendering my life to Christ. But most of the time, we don't mean it. Because what you figure out over time is after you take out the trash, you start trying to figure out, how do I redeem these things that are not of God in my life? How do I redeem my words, my finances? How do I redeem my marriage, my parenting, my choices? And that includes celebration. So after much study and prayer, here's what I believe is the core of what the Bible tells us about celebration. Celebrating, by the way, is not silly or frivolous or wasteful. True celebration, I believe, is a spiritual discipline. Yep, that's right. True celebration is a spiritual discipline, something we are meant to do regularly and intentionally. In fact, here's our big idea for today. Christ followers are meant to live lives of celebration. We are meant to live, guys, we are meant to live lives of celebration. No one should be partying harder than us. Right? Because once dead, now alive. Once lost, now found. We have more to celebrate than people who are hopeless and helpless. But how do we do that? What does the Bible say about how we actually live lives of celebration in our normal walking around lives? Well, I have 3 principles for you today. Not thoughts. 3 principles for you today. No one got that. Anyway, so here's the first principle that we need to think about. The first one is, how do I redeem the art of celebration in my life? And I use the word art on purpose because, like I said, there's not a lot of rules on how to actually celebrate. It's kind of an art form. Should we celebrate? Absolutely. How we celebrate needs to be redeemed. Now, I've been to a lot of parties in my day. As you may be able to tell, I'm the extrovert in my marriage. My wife jokes all the time that she's invisible, and she likes it that way. So don't go up to her and say, I'm going to give you a hug, because she'll be like, yeah. Anyway, so that's how that works, right? So I've been to a lot of parties in my day, but you can always tell when you go to a party where somebody has actually thought about, what is it that we're celebrating? Who is it that we're celebrating? And then they build that into the celebration experience. Godly celebrations are focused on the celebrate-ee, not the celebrator. Okay, think about that for just a minute. Your celebrations, most of your celebrations, are they more focused on what you're going to get out of it or what you're there to give? Same thing, by the way, when you show up to church. Threw that in there for free. Not convicting at all, right? So here's how I know this. Look, this is one of my favorite passages on celebration in the entire Bible. Actually, it's an entire chapter of the book of Luke. Luke 15 tells 3 parables. Jesus tells 3 parables back to back to back. And they all have to do with something that was lost being sought. Something that is found being celebrated. Over and over again. There's the story of the lost sheep, the lost coin, and then the lost son, or what you might know as the prodigal son. And in the parable of the lost son, the son comes home after just wrecking his life and losing everything. And what does the father say? Here's how he responds. He says, quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet. And kill the calf we've been fattening. We must what? Celebrate with a feast. Why? Because this son of mine was dead. And now he's returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found. And the last 4 words. So the party began. Yes, that's in your Bible. Now notice, everything in this passage is focused on the celebratee, not the celebrator. It's all focused on the son. Put the robe and the ring on him. He was lost, but now he is found. So God is not anti-party. He just wants the celebration to honor him and the person or the occasion that we're celebrating. So let's just pause right there. let me just ask you, how would your New Year's celebration, your Christmas celebration next year, your birthday celebrations coming up, what would those look like if you made them about honoring the person or the occasion rather than just doing what you want? Because isn't that what we do? We make it about us. We just got done singing. It's all about you. And we turn almost immediately and make it all about us. See, he wants us to party. God is not anti-party. He just wants the celebration to be focused on the right things. So what would it look like for you to do that? Well, I've got a few principles for you here. This first one was, what we just talked about. The second one is this: leverage times of celebration. So not only do we need to redeem the art of celebration and really think about what it looks like, but we need to leverage times of celebration. Now, some of you in this room are not a big fan of partying or having celebrations. I mean, there's all those people, right? And they're just the worst, aren't they? I mean, but here's what I've figured out. This is really important. Now, I am not new to the planet. You may have figured out that I'm a little bit older. And as you age, time seems to accelerate. Can I get an amen on that? Yep, that's totally true, right? It just gets quicker and quicker. And the time between your birthdays gets smaller and smaller. Guys, I just turned 60. It seemed like 2 weeks before that, I just turned 59. What happened? What happened? And to be honest, when I turned 60, I was basically like, really, are we going to do this again? I really don't feel like celebrating. But let me tell you, it's important. It's really important. Add to that there are some people that think that celebrations are just a waste of time and resources and things like that. And it's really easy to want to skip over celebrations. But we need to leverage those times of celebration to remind us of a lot of things. We see this in 1 Corinthians. In the city of Corinth, there were a bunch of people, new church, they're trying to figure out this whole Jesus thing or whatever. And they're like, well, do we celebrate all the celebrations that were in the Old Testament? Do we bring those in? What do we do or whatever? And there were some people that were like, no, we shouldn't do this at all. And there are some people in this room that are like, no, celebrations are just a gateway to bad things or whatever, and regret and all that kind of stuff. But listen to what Paul says. He says, so let us celebrate the festival, not with the old bread of wickedness and evil, but with the new bread. And who is the new bread? Yeah, of sincerity and truth. Now, I have to tell you this. I get it. You're probably sitting out there, some of you are probably sitting out there thinking to yourselves, you have no idea what's going on in my life. And you might be here and you're going through something really hard. And I totally get that. I know I'm the guy up here, and a lot of times it looks like we've got it all together. But I've been through a lot of suffering in my life. A load of suffering in my life. And let me tell you what I've learned about celebration in those times. I need it. I need it. Listen, look at me. Do not allow your suffering to stop you from celebrating. Don't let that happen, because it's just a death spiral. It's just over and over again. We need these times of celebrations that cause us to look up. Otherwise, we are constantly focused on our brokenness and what's wrong in the world. Look at me. You have more to celebrate than you think. Yeah. You do. And if you're in the pit right now and you're focused completely on all your brokenness, guess where that's going to get you? But if you look up and you begin to count your blessings, you begin to think about what is it in my life that is worth celebrating, you will quickly realize, as I have realized, that I've got it way better than I deserve. And let me tell you about God. He is good. He is good all the time, even when it doesn't look like, and even when you don't understand, and even when it doesn't feel good. You know what feelings get to do? They get to ride in the car. They do not get to drive. So we make our choices. And I started preparing this message. I was like, celebration, it sounds really frilly and soft or whatever. This is an important spiritual discipline. Just like prayer. If you don't pray, your spiritual life is going to suffer. Just like fasting. Just like reading scripture. Learning to celebrate is a spiritual discipline. You need it. And so do I. So leverage those times. So how do we live lives of celebration? We first redeem what it looks like to celebrate. Second, we leverage the natural times of celebration in our lives. And then lastly, we live in daily celebration. Now I know, nobody loves that person. Like it's a constant party in their life. They're like a rainbow puking unicorn everywhere they go, you know? You know what I'm talking about? Somebody who's just like, oh, everything's fine. Everything's not fine all the time. It's just not, right? But you can live your life in constant celebration. You can do that. I'm not talking about wearing an ugly Christmas sweater like 365. Nobody wants that, by the way. Nobody wants that or needs that. But you can live a celebratory life. The world has enough serious Christians. You know what the world needs? The world needs to see that there's life inside of you because of what God has done in you. You know what the world needs to see? It needs to see a group of people, a church that is living life in celebration in spite of the hardship that surrounds us constantly. That's what the world needs to see. I'm talking about a life that points to this fact. And this verse is what I really, really, really wanted to get to this whole time. This is what I've been setting up this whole time, is this verse right here. From Colossians 3:16, it says, let the message about Christ in all its richness. In other words, everything that comes with that, everything he rescued in your life, let it fill your lives. Teach and counsel each other with all the wisdom he gives. Sing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs to God with thankful hearts. Some of you are I'm too busy for that. You're missing it. You're missing it. Let what God has done in you just pour out of you. Let that celebration continue no matter what you're doing. Now, the longer I live, the more I know this, that good days and bad days, hard times and good times, every tick of the clock is a gift. What you do with it is up to you. What would it look like for the message of Christ in all its richness to fill your life? I'll tell you what it would look like. It would look like you're living a life of celebration all the time. What would it look like for the love that God gifted you to fill your whole life? Not just parts, not just your Sunday life, your whole life. What would it look like for that joy that found you when he rescued you to fill your life? What would it look like for people to see you in the hardest and worst day of your life, but still carrying an air of peace? It would look like a life of celebration. How can my life, how can your life join with the heavens, the welkin, to bring glory to the newborn King? This is how. This is how. So as we close today, I just want to share with you a little bit about those three stories I told you about that Jesus tells, the three parables in Luke chapter 15, because there's something hidden in there that's really important. We see three celebrations, but what happened before those celebrations? Well, the first thing that happened was somebody sought. There was seeking. Then something was found. And then something was celebrating. So right now, let me just ask you, take a little inventory, just like Chris talked about. Take a little inventory of your spiritual life. What are you seeking? What are you seeking? What are you going to seek in 2025? Jesus said this, and super short, but super powerful. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to your life. All the things you're seeking right now are found in Him. Seek first. See, what I do, is I try to seek the thing and fix the thing, and I try to go here and do that, and once I get all that together, then I can celebrate. But what Jesus is telling us is you're doing it backwards. Come to me. Celebrate what you have, and everything else, it's going to just take care of itself. There's a pattern of seeking and finding and celebrating. What you celebrate is directly connected to what you found, and what you find is directly connected to what you seek. So as our prayer partners come forward this morning, I just want to invite you, take some spiritual inventory. If there's someone we can pray with you, if there's something we can pray for you about, if you're going through a hard time, let us come. Let us just come and let us help you pray through what it looks like to find what's worth celebrating.